take a moment and think about, when was the last time you were spellbound by a teacher? Just take a moment and think about that. For me, when I think about that question, I actually think about my dad. In the last 9 years of his life, he was in a nursing home due to a fall and eventually a stroke. The fall basically broke his neck, and he was paralyzed from the neck down. And the reason I was spellbound by that experience was that my dad was a carpenter and worked with his hands and lived his life by his physical being as a dad and a carpenter and a sheet metal mechanic. And that last 10 years of his life, all of that was taken away. There was literally nothing left of his physical body except his mind and his presence to us. And I was spellbound because in that experience and in that moment, all that came through was love. When everything else was taken away, there was a lot of love and a lot of healing in those 9 years. And I was spellbound by that. And I continue to carry that with me because I experienced the love of God through that moment, a very painful and difficult moment, but a moment of great love. Today's gospel is about Jesus' first act of ministry in the area of Capernaum near the Sea of Galilee. Now, I love using maps because maps help me ground where I am. And this map of the first century around the time of Christ, here's the Sea of Galilee in the north from Jerusalem. And Capernaum is a little town north of the Sea of Galilee. Now, you have to understand also that Jesus is from Nazareth, which is over here, a hick town. Basically, that's what, was a real country town, because the city of Sepphoris was a big and booming city, and he was a carpenter. Jesus was a carpenter, so the sense of building in this city over here. But this is his first act of ministry, and his act of ministry is one of teaching in the synagogue, and the people are spellbound by his authority of what he knows. And his second act is one of healing. He heals a man that is possessed by a demon. Now, in the Gospel of Mark that we hear today, the man with the unclean spirit, and unclean means outside of the community, literally ostracized from the community. Somehow he gets into the synagogue. To me, I find that odd because the synagogue would be people in the community to be gathered. But he comes in and he shrieks out, "What do you want of us, Jesus of Nazareth? I know who you are. You are the Holy One of God." I'm also kind of puzzled by that, but someone from the outside of the community recognizes clearly who Jesus was. And Jesus rebukes him and says, "Be silent," and then heals him. The gospel makes clear today that the ministry of Jesus is about teaching and about healing. And people were spellbound by him and amazed by him. So much so that his reputation spread throughout the Galilee and Capernaum region, all in that area. And this is a time before any kind of electronic communication, social media. It was all by word of mouth, coming to know who Jesus is. So this week, I'd like to challenge us to take a moment and think about, how do others learn who Christ is by the way we live our lives, we who are considered disciples today? And how can we empower others to look and find God through our example of teaching and healing one another through acts and kindness in love? I think my mission in life, my desire in life is I want people to know who Christ is by the way I live. And so I challenge all of us to take a moment to be mindful this week of how we can love one another and point others to who Christ is in our lives, and be spellbound by that love and that healing of God. Amen.